Hey everybody, and welcome to the presentation for Access to Food. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, in 2018, 37.2 million people lived in food insecure households. Now that means that around 11% of people living in the United States do not have reliable access to food. This is an incredibly important domestic issue, and it spans in similar facets around the globe.
One specific kind of food insecurity is known as food deserts. These are areas where residents' access to affordable or healthy food options is restricted or non-existent due to the absence of grocery stores within a convenient traveling distance. And what's interesting is that food deserts are known to affect areas that are home to ethnic minority and low-income populations. There are a lot of theories as to how that happened, whether it be from the development and closure of stores in order to move to more affluent outskirts of cities, the changes in demographics in U.S. cities between 1970 and 1988 due to economic segregation becoming more prominent, or simply due to the inability of supermarkets to establish their businesses in an urban area without much open land to offer. No matter the origin of food deserts, they do exist and predominantly affect minority groups. Predominantly black neighborhoods have 6 times more fast food restaurants than predominantly white neighborhoods. Predominantly African American neighborhoods have fewer healthy food options compared to areas with a lower percentage of African American residents. The presence of one supermarket associated with a 32% increase in fruit and vegetable consumption among blacks. Supermarkets were 4 times more likely to be found in predominantly white neighborhoods compared to predominantly black. And lastly, compared to the most impoverished white neighborhoods, African American neighborhoods were 1.1 miles farther from the nearest supermarket. Long-term health consequences of having access to healthy food is a large concern. Minority groups tend to have higher rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and other diet-related conditions. All of these are definitely connected to living in food deserts. As future healthcare professionals, we must do more to serve our patients who are in this situation. There have been some efforts made in individual medical centers or hospitals, such as creating a fresh food pharmacy to offer prescription food, partnering with Meals on Wheels to offer medically tailored meals for patients who have been discharged, or even starting a screening process to look for food insecurity in their patients. When you think about the places that you want to work, whether it be hospitals, clinics, somewhere else, what are some areas that you think could be improved for patients who are food insecure? We might not be able to eliminate food deserts entirely, but we can work together to take small steps to better care for patients who are in situations like these that they cannot avoid.
My name's Kelsey, and I'll be talking about food programs in relation to food insecurity. Food programs are created to help those who have food insecurity or trouble accessing food. Some of the largest ones are created and sustained by governments. There are also programs set up by nonprofit organizations like food banks. Most programs are delegated to a specific subset of a population. For example, many countries have free and reduced lunch programs for students, but every country is different. Canada does not have a national school lunch program, while the United States does. The United States has many food programs for its citizens. The 2 largest ones are the National School Lunch Program, also known as NSLP, and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP. They both have strict requirements for eligibility. The National School Lunch Program provides free or reduced lunch to students. In 2009, around 94% of public and private schools in the United States participated in the program. It was originally formed in 1946 because of the large number of men turned away from the Army in World War II because of poor nutritional health. There are 2 subsections of the NSLP, free or reduced lunch. Eligibility for either part of the program is based on the household's annual income. In order to receive free lunch, the income must be at or below 130% of the poverty level, which is about $1,400 a month. In order to receive reduced lunch, the family household income must be between 130 and 185% of the poverty level. While the eligibility is explicitly written, there is much more leeway in becoming eligible compared to other food programs in the United States. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program was created for the general public. It used to be known as the Food Stamp Program. SNAP requirements are very strict and do not offer very much leeway to become eligible. The first requirement is that you must have a gross monthly income at or below 130% of the poverty level. This is very similar to the National School Lunch Program. The second requirement is that you must have a job in order to be eligible for SNAP. There are some subsets of the population, like children and the elderly, who this does not pertain to. Another requirement for eligibility is documentation of citizenship of the United States. National food programs are a great way to help those living with food insecurity get the food that they need. However, the requirements for eligibility in any U.S. food programs are incredibly strict. Undocumented immigrants in the United States do not have very many options if they have food insecurity because they are not able to enroll in any national programs. In order to best combat food insecurity in the U.S., the public needs to be educated about how rampant it is here. The opinion that food insecurity is only a third world problem is horribly incorrect, but it is a widespread one. The only way that the national food programs will get better is if the public steps up and helps to change them. Food insecurity is a global problem, but it is a national one too.
Production and processing is the first step in gaining access to food. Thus, everyone is affected by production and processing. Unless you have a home garden, can slaughter your own animals, and can process those raw materials, you are dependent, at least in part, by your local supermarket having a constant supply of common goods. There are many challenges to global production of food, including nutritional value, ecological impact, population growth, contamination, and even global pandemics. Those experiencing food insecurity, as previously discussed, are frequently malnourished. Some forms of malnutrition are partly due to the nutritional value of the agricultural product not being a top goal of the producer. Essentially, some of the food produced today is not as nutrient dense as before. Granted, beyond nutrient content of the food, important factors to agriculture are water and soil quality, avoiding health hazards, and seasonality of products. When you mess with one variable, it can affect another. Some GMO alternatives to traditional products increase the nutrient density of foods. One example of research related to agriculture comes from Purdue's own World Food Prize laureate, Dr. Gabisa Ejeta, a distinguished professor of agronomy, who was selected in 2009 for his research leading to improved sorghum varieties in his native Ethiopia and other African nations. Sorghum is a major food crop for more than 500 million people in the African continent. With the world's population rapidly growing, can we produce enough food in the coming decades? The short answer is no. Farming is the growing of natural products. However, it's not actually safe for the environment. The best way to increase the environmental friendliness of production is through technology. Microsoft is teaming up with The Yield to use Microsoft's advanced artificial intelligence technology to reduce waste and produce more food by helping farmers make the right decisions, such as when to fertilize or when to water. Bowery farming has another solution, vertical farming, which can be done in urban settings and is also very high-tech, producing 100 times the food with the same footprint using 95% less water. However, with increased production, there is a heightened risk for errors. The US is familiar with recalls, think metal pieces in Tyson chicken, and our seemingly annual E. coli on romaine lettuce fiasco. The FDA must increase the number of and improve the detail of its inspections to prevent these errors and recalls from continuing to skyrocket. Finally, amidst the global pandemic COVID-19, I am sure many of us have traveled to the store to see primarily empty shelves. Despite shortages of toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and other highly sought-after products, most of the food supply chains are functioning, as food meant for restaurants, airlines, and other industries are being diverted toward grocery stores. Now, this isn't a perfect process, as highly perishable foods such as milk and eggs are not able to get purchased by new buyers fast enough, causing them to actually be thrown out. This sadly is uprooting the dairy industry. All in all, with the foreseeable stock of food safe, one thing we might not be prepared for is the workers who supply the world's food are beginning to get sick. Preceding the pandemic, there was already a shortage of workers in agriculture. Now it's only going to get worse. This will indeed decrease the production in plants, farms, and factories that have less workers. For example, strawberries are still hand-planted, weeded, and picked. With COVID-19, there will just simply be less strawberries available for the foreseeable future.
The United States and much of the world is on track to produce and process enough food, even amidst a global pandemic. It is only with continued efforts to combat food insecurity, such as using food programs, that we can see an improvement of access to food for lower income and minority individuals. With continuous scientific and technological breakthroughs, producers will successfully serve the global community of tomorrow.